There's something new coming to Canadian pharmacies. The federal government has announced it's allowing the generic brand of the painkiller OxyContin. Does the name sound familiar? It will to many of you. OxyContin has been one of the most widely abused drugs in the country. In fact, last year, its manufacturer took it off the market and replaced it with OxyNeo, a new formula it said was more resistant to tampering. So now that generic, cheaper brands of OxyContin are about to arrive, we thought we'd show you what's happening in one community. Our Nick Purdon went to London, Ontario.
It's a battle wound. It really feels like this is a scar to prove that I am fighting, that I have a war going on, but it's inside myself. You know, my war is not with a country or a religion. My war is with a pill. Yeah.
Adrienne Paddock still thinks about the night when she first tried OxyContin. She was at a frat party in London, Ontario. A student herself at a university in Boston, she'd come home for the Christmas holidays. That night led to 6 years of chasing after a pill.
Who did you become?
I became like the ghost of who I used to be. My parents lost their house. Because they couldn't pay the mortgage because I spent all their money. My dad had 2 heart attacks while I was using.
Adrienne's life became as narrow as these streets. She did laps of an 8-block radius night after night, searching for an OxyContin pill that she would cook and shoot into her arm.
How long would I have to walk? How far was I going to have to go? How many people was I going to have to ask? You know, how late was I going to be out here at night looking? I would never allow myself to go home without an Oxy because I'd be too sick the next day.
But on those long nights, Adrienne didn't only meet addicts and dealers. She met Nick Scrivo, the outreach worker with the backpack full of clean needles who'd bring them to her no matter where she was.
I go right to people's homes, motels, crack houses, or meet them somewhere on the street and give them clean equipment and try to talk with and engage them.
And so even though she shot up for years, Adrienne never contracted HIV or hepatitis C. She says Nick saved her life.
I even thought I was going to probably be on the street or die on the street and that would be it. But so I know how important it is to have someone in your life telling you that they can help you get something, because nobody wants to help an addict normally.
Mm-hmm. Right? With each needle he gave her, Nick slowly won Adrienne's trust. As Nick is explaining that he handed out 1.5 million needles in the last year alone,
I do.
Someone stops him.
So I'll just hand you a kit here.
Nick doesn't recognize the young man. It's a new addict, and the cycle starts again.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
You take care, eh?
I figure if anyone knows what happens when a new drug makes its way to the street, it's got to be Nick.
With the introduction of a generic Oxy, I don't know what'll happen. I would hope that we'd see less crystal meth. It most likely will make its way to the streets. The only thing to expect is unexpected.
For an example, Nick tells me all you have to do is look to last spring. That's when OxyContin was replaced with OxyNeo, which the manufacturer said would make it hard for addicts to tamper with.
OxyNeo was an attempt to solve a problem.
Yeah.
Drug users would not be able to crush it, to melt it, to burn it, whatever, and inject it into...
Yeah, but they can.
How long did that take?
Years ago, OxyNeo has been available in the States for years. You could Google it, how to inject it properly, before it was even available here. And I don't believe that the pharmaceutical company was unaware of that.
Adrienne tried to quit OxyContin many times. She tells me how she once did 21 days of detox, only to use again within the first 7 minutes back home. Walking these streets is a reminder of that past, and now for the first time, of her future.
I've had my art in this gallery. I've been in a couple group shows that we've showed here before the Oxys. it'll happen again.
The reason Adrian has hope now is because of this place. It was Valentine's Day of last year when Adrian first walked into Deb Warren's office and started on methadone.
Hey, Adrian.
Hi, how are you? Good, thanks. How are you?
Coming to the clinic once or twice a week is just enough to become an anchor of stability for a person and start to pull them to a place where they can start to change their life a little bit. And there's no judgment, and they can make mistakes.
Yeah. After 6 years of, feeling so alone and so guilty and so ashamed of what I had done to myself and my family and my life, to have someone say, like, that's not what matters. What matters is you're here right now, and what matters is what you do when you leave here and what you do tomorrow. That was probably the greatest gift that anyone could have given me.
So how are you doing on your reduced dose? How are you feeling?
I'm weaning down.
Knowing how much Deb has helped Adrian, I wonder what she thinks will happen when generic OxyContin hits the street.
Will OxyContin take hold the way it did in here? It had a big presence. The thing is that with its absence since April, what's in the city? Heroin. Heroin was never in London really in any big way before or before the OxyContin changed and OxyNeo arrived. People bought up OxyContin in batches until it was gone, and then for the first time we started seeing heroin use in this city. It's hard to see how the market will shift when OxyContin comes back, the generic.
Deb tells me the only thing she is certain of is that there will always be drugs on the street.
So what about Christmas, Adrian?
It means something different this year. The money I have and I've saved, I get to spend on my family, which, for me is so exciting because, they deserve it. They've been on this journey with me, and every dollar that I spend on something that's not an opiate, just for me, it feels like such a victory.
Glad you're doing well.
Thank you.
We'll see you in a week or so.
Yes, I'll be back.
Yeah, that's good.
Thanks, Deb. No matter how far away I get in my recovery, no matter how many clean years I have, every day I wake up and I have to be willing to fight, against the power of opiates.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Take care.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
After following Adrian on her journey for a couple of days, I wonder if our focus isn't better spent on the addicts, the people, instead of the drugs. Nick Purdon, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Ontario wants the federal government to reconsider its decision to allow the generic version of OxyContin. The province has many reasons to be worried. Since 1991, it says prescriptions for oxycodone medications have risen 900%. In 2009, there were 143 deaths in Ontario related to the drug, the most of any province. And it's estimated the social cost of allowing a generic brand will be $500 million a year. But when properly used, OxyContin does help a lot of people with chronic pain. And in a statement, the Federal Minister of Health told CBC News, "I always need to keep the needs of patients first. Banning any drug reduces options for patients, but people determined to abuse drugs will find other options."